Hey everybody, how's it going today? All right, so the cookies that we're going to be doing today, let me turn myself off so I'm not in the way here. We're going to be doing a bat, a tombstone, a cat, a moon, and a rat. So these are just 5 of the Halloween shapes that I enjoy decorating for the holiday. And we're going to have subsequent sessions for the following 3 weeks. And so we've got quite a few other designs that we'll be doing. I just chosen these as sort of starting designs. Halloween-y enough, but not the full-on heavy Halloween design. So we'll be getting into those later on. All right. So what I'm going to be doing is sort of swapping back and forth between views. You can kind of look overhead and see what I'm doing. You'll see me full on. We'll do this at the beginning, at the end, not in the middle of it, unless I feel like it absolutely has to. Then most of the time we'll be looking at the live close-up so you can see what I'm doing with the cookies. All right, so I'm going to move cookies out of the way, and we are going to start with the moon cookie. I've got my colors all made up, and I'm going to have some videos on YouTube that will talk about the kind of icing that we use. That'll show you how to make the icing, how to color the icing. And there are a few different recipes for it. Also, I'll have some links to places where you can purchase the materials. So maybe we can decorate cookies together sometime in the future. So I've got my colors made up, and so we're going to just jump right into it. For our moon, I've got a really nice yellow color here. So let me go ahead and get my bag ready, and we'll start in. So when you're decorating cookies with royal icing, we're using a technique called flooding. And what we do is we draw an outline of where we want the icing to go. You can come in anywhere from maybe 1/4 inch from the outside edge of the cookie, 3/16, maybe 3/8, something like that, whatever you're comfortable with. And then you go back and fill it in. Now, if I only wanted half this moon, then I would have just drawn that outline for half the moon and filled that in. But because in this particular case, I want the entire moon filled in, so we're just going to draw that outline around the entire shape and just go back and forth and fill it in. It's a kind of a fun technique. It's got a great result, just this beautiful flat cookie. Depending on if you use multiple colors, depending on how you decide you're going to layer those colors, you can get some additional texture in there. You can get texture in just the colors by using an alternate color on top of in this case, this yellow. Or you can wait, and if you do it right away, the layers will sort of flatten out, and it'd be a nice sort of flat surface, kind of like wallpaper. Alternatively, you can wait for the cookie to dry and then put some decorations on it, which is what we're actually going to do next. So I'm going to move this one just over to the side here. And before I started the class, I had another moon cookie that this one's been sitting and resting for a little while. The cookie icing, it dries very hard and brittle, which is perfect for this type of cookie. It makes them very durable. If you want to serve them on a platter at a party, if you want to package them up and ship them to friends, it's just a really, really good, sturdy cookie, and this icing is particularly good for that. So with this cookie, I've got the base laid down, and I'm going to put another layer of color on top of that, and we can see what that looks like. So let me prepare my bag. Make sure the icing's coming out okay. Yep. Okay, I'm going to turn this towards myself, and then I will turn it back to you so you can see what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an image of a witch flying in the night sky over the moon. I don't know if anyone watches Marvel TV. Last night, the episode was all about Agatha the Witch, and there was a scene in the show where they were flying across the moon. So this is kind of like that, so it's kind of a fun little homage to that show. But this is kind of a fun technique, like I said, when you've got a design that you can put over the top of the cookie, and then it gives it some additional texture. So when that cookie dries, you'll be able to feel a little bit of a texture on the top. So that's our first cookie that we're doing today, the witch flying across the moon, the Halloween witch. So I'm going to go ahead and set that one aside for a minute. Actually, I'll just leave it there for a second if you want to take a look at it, and you can compare the two of them side by side. Right? I mean, the moon by itself is great. It's beautiful. It's delicious. This with the witch on it and the little bats, it just sort of kicks it up a notch. So you can wow your friends with that type of detail on your cookie. Oh, actually, I forgot one of the other details is her cape flying off the back. There we are. Now we've got the finished cookie. All right, cool. All right, we'll set that one aside and move on to our next cookie. And that is a little rat. Actually, I'm showing you the finished one before I do the decorate the one live for you. So it's our little rat. The one that you saw is decorated in brown. I'm going to do this one with brown, but I'm going to do a slightly different treatment on his tail. So get my icing ready here. When you're decorating with royal icing, you use the icing in like 3 different consistencies. There's a thick consistency, which is how it is when it comes out of the mixer. And that is really good for if you're building something like a gingerbread house. It's like glue, and it will hold the pieces together. It's very durable. You wouldn't put it on a cookie like that because it's too thick. It wouldn't spread out. You can't do the flooding. The second consistency is sort of in between this and the flooding, the one that we just looked at, and the flooding, which is a consistency that's good for drawing images, and that's what we did with the witch. So it's sort of a medium consistency, and then we've got the thin consistency, which is the flooding consistency, and that allows the cookie icing to be laid down and then sort of flow into this nice flat surface. So that's what we're using, the flooding consistency icing for most of these cookies. All right. So once again, I'm going to draw an outline around the area that I want to be filled in with the brown. Now in this case, we're going to color his tail in a different color. So I'm not going to go down as far as his tail. I'm just going to outline the body. And then like we did with the moon, we're just going to go back and forth and flood it in. You know, rats are kind of a strange cookie, which I would not normally make, but because it's Halloween, it seems appropriate. So we'll go back and forth and fill that in. You can go, if you miss a spot, you can always go back and just fill it back in. The icing is really nice and forgiving in that way, but you have to do it right away. If you let it sit for too long, the icing will start to set up, and then when you try and touch it, it'll start to dent or crack. So you need to make sure that if you do need to do any touch-up, you do it before the cookie gets too dry. Okay, we're going to put a little pink tail on this guy. And so I'm, again, drawing the outline of the area where I want that pink color to go. And then I'm just going to fill it in. All right, there's our little, our little rat with the pink tail. I'm going to set him aside, and I'll bring back the one that I had done earlier. So this guy's a nice brown little rat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use icing to put some additional details. So start out by just putting a little pink nose on the guy. And I have a red here. We're going to put a little red eye on him. Icing doesn't want to come out, so let me see if I can figure out why. Okay, I got it. Okay, we're going to put a little red eye on him. And then we're going to put a little bit of detail in the form of claws. Okay. Little toenails. So we're just going to come down and draw these little white lines of icing, and you kind of drip it off or like tail it off when you're drawing it on, so that you get a little point on it. And why not? Let's put a little one in his mouth as well. So there you got a rat with red eyes, pink nose, and the teeth and the claws. So, and here we'll show them to you side by side. So what you can do when this other white or this one sets up, you can put the same kind of detail on that, obviously, and then you can put little lines in the tail to sort of show that kind of scaly tail if you want to. Now you can see these two colors. It's not real obvious in the video, but the colors are a little bit different. This lighter color is the one that we put down just a minute ago together, and you can see it's a little bit lighter. This is the darker one that's dried. So these colors do hold pretty well, but they do, when they dry, they darken. So not a huge amount, but just sort of want to keep that in mind. If you're really, really particular about color, you want to make sure that you account a little bit for the fact that it will get darker when the cookie is drying. Okay? Cool. So that's our second cookie. Set him aside. And next we're going to do a Halloween bat. All right. I have lots of cookie cutters that I've collected over the years, and so deciding which one I'm going to use, I have like probably 5 or 6 different bat design cookie cutters. So it's always a matter of like, okay, well, which one do I want to do this time? Some of them are smaller. There's one that's bigger, one that looks kind of like a Batman logo. Don't want to really use that. That's not really Halloween. But this one is kind of a fun one, so we've chosen that one for today. And once again, we are going to draw our outline of where we want the icing to go. And I don't know if you can tell from the video or not, but when I'm drawing this icing on, I'm sort of holding the point of the icing about 1/4 of an inch above the cookie and squeezing very lightly on the bag and just guiding the icing into place. It would be hard to draw it on exactly where I want it. Because it's as loose as it is, you want to sort of guide it into place, not try and draw it on. The slightly thicker version of the icing is a little bit different. That you can be a little bit more just drawing it on. But this one you really want to just sort of like let it flow into place, and you're guiding it into where you want it to go. So we've got the outline down. We're going to go back and forth like we did with the other ones and just fill it in here. The coloring I use for these cookies is a gel paste. It's a really nicely concentrated food coloring. I have, growing up, all I had available to me was the liquid that you get at the grocery store, and you always had to use a ton of that, and inevitably, because you use so much, it got this sort of chemically taste. But this stuff is really, really concentrated, so you only need a small amount to go to get these really nice vivid colors. Even with a larger amount of the icing, if I want a really intense color and I have to add a lot of the food coloring, it tends not to have any sort of a flavor. So it's a really great type of food color, definitely recommend it. Okay, so there's our bat. We've got him outlined and everything. We'll move him aside and bring in the bat that I had done earlier. Okay, so this one, I think what we'll do is just lay down an outline for the area where we of the cookie, just to sort of give it a nice definition. None of these details that I'm putting on are necessary. I mean, that first one's a beautiful cookie. Everybody would love to see that on the table. This just adds sort of an additional layer of detail that, because I've been doing it as long as I have, I just feel sort of inclined to do that, so it's fun. Okay, so we're drawing around the outline. So we got nice, it's kind of hard to see in there, but I'm also going to draw some lines down, actually. I have a light here. My apologies for not turning this on sooner. Well, that didn't really help, but hopefully we'll be able to see these details. I'll take some pictures after I'm done today and post them on my site and on my social feed, so you'll be able to see them if you'd like to check them out. Okay, we've got our detail on there. We'll put a couple little red eyes, sort of make him a scary Halloween bat. And then in this case, he is a vampire bat. So we get a couple little things on there. So you can see it's not necessary to do that, but it does add a lot to have those fun little details added onto the cookie. All right. A couple more to do yet. Set these aside. And if you do want to add these details onto your cookies, you're going to want to let the cookie to set up for at least half an hour, even up to an hour. When I do cookies as an order, I tend to do a lot of cookies. And so when I start decorating, I'm sort of laying down the first coat on all of my cookies. So maybe a couple dozen cookies. And by the time I get the first coat done on 24 cookies, that base coat on that first cookie I did is already setting up. So it becomes sort of a nice assembly line. Or if I've got multiple designs, and I'll lay a base coat down on all of them. And then I'll go back and start with the original cookie and start layering the different colors on. Some of the cookies that I do may have up to 3 or 4 different layers, just because I want that base, and then I want to make sure that like the next layer sets up before I put the next layer on. I've done some pretty elaborate cookies. I do cookies that look like the houses that real estate agents are selling, and those have a lot of detail because you got the base, then you've got the windows and the doors and the framing and the roofing and all that kind of stuff, and then of course all the greens around the house after the cookie is done. So it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's always fun. And people who buy the house, and the people who are selling the house always love to have sort of a cookie memorabilia of what the house was that they sold, or what the house looked like when they bought it. So it's kind of fun. Okay, our next cookie today is a little cat. So we're going to do exactly what we've done with all the other ones. We're going to start by laying down the icing in the shape that I'm going to want it. So in this case, the kitty's sort of got plain little points for legs. So I'm going to try and draw it in so you got a little bit of a foot in there. Sometimes you just have to sort of adapt the design for yourself so you get exactly what you want. So I even gave him a little bit of an arch back. So we'll go up, get his ears. Should never feel like you have to fill the entire cookie in. Sometimes you want a little bit of white space exposed, like in this under the tail or on the back. I want that to stay open so that it looks like it defines the characteristics of the cat a little bit better. But it would be unfortunate if the cookie cutter, when I bought it, actually cut it in like that, because that would make it very, very fragile. I see a lot of cookie cutters that are really cute and very clever, but they would never hold up to being shipped. I mean, they would barely hold up to being decorated, just because they can become really fragile if part of the cookie is too thin. So this is good. This you can sort of get that sort of definition without having to worry about the cookie not being sort of sturdy enough. So there's our little black cat with the outline. Gonna move him over, and I'll bring over the one that I did. Now the icing, you can probably tell in here, the cookie that I did ahead of time is sort of more of a matte finish, and the cookie that I just finished is glossy. I have not been able to find a way to keep the cookie looking glossy. It's really beautiful, and there are times when I would really like that effect on the cookie, but I haven't been able to figure out how to do that. If I ever do, I'll let you know, all right? And if you know, let me know. I appreciate it. Okay, we've got our little kitty here. I think in this case, I won't do the outline around him, just because we already did that on the last cookie. But in this one, we're going to put little eyes on him. So put the white spots. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of color. So we'll just put a little dot of color in there. So there we got our kitty here. I'm going to move this down so you can see it a little bit better. There we got our kitty with green eyes, and we'll put cute little pink nose on him. And, of course, we need a couple whiskers. So get those drawn in here. This white that I'm using and the green is a little bit thicker consistency. Again, if it was too thin, it would sort of flatten out on the cookie. But because it's got a little bit of texture to it, a little bit of thicker consistency, it holds its shape really well. So that middle range of the icing thickness or consistency is really good for doing details on your cookies. Okay, he is arching, so we're going to give him a couple of pointy little toenails here. All right, and you won't be able to see it necessarily. Well, maybe I can get you to see it. I'm going to put little dots across the back to sort of represent him having his hackles raised. So that's a fun little kitten cookie there. Halloween. All right, and there's the original, so you can kind of see side by side. All right, and we're going to move on to our final cookie. And that one is the tombstone. All right, let me wipe my hands off because I want to make sure I'm not mixing all my colors. So we're going to start out really simply and put some, do our flooding on the cookie like we've done with all the other ones. And because I want the entire cookie to be gray, I'm going to draw my outline. My bags aren't working today very well. Okay, there we go. So we're going to draw our outline. All around. Okay, got the outline. And then we're just going to go in, like with all the others, and fill it in. So royal icing is essentially two ingredients. It's egg whites and powdered sugar. So this type of icing, I mentioned earlier that it dries very rigid and very hard. You would never want to decorate a cake with something like this. You would only want to use it on cookies or on maybe on top of a pastry. But even then, you just have to keep in mind that it's going to be very, very crunchy when you bite into it. Interestingly, I did a search to find out why it's called royal icing, and they say that it was actually because they used to decorate royalty cakes, the royalties cakes with it, which just seems bizarre to me that you would decorate a cake with an icing that was so crunchy. Why not use a buttercream? Anyway, so that's the story. Don't know whether it's true or not, or if I was just choosing a link on the web that sort of had that little story. I personally think that it has to do with the consistency of the icing, because when you first make the icing, you start out with it in a very thick consistency, so thick in fact that you can lift your spoon out of it and you see these peaks. And I would, my definition or reason for why it's called royal icing is because you can make those peaks, you can sort of emulate what would look like a crown or a tiara. So that's my idea. I don't know if it's a good one or not, but that's what my idea is. So, okay, so we've got the base laid down for the tombstone. I'm going to go in, and this is sort of a technique that I was mentioning earlier, where we're taking a second color and laying it down immediately while that first color is still wet. All of the cookies that we've been doing up to this point, I've been laying the base coat on and letting it set. In this case, we're going to lay down that first layer now. It's difficult to see on screen, but that black color that I laid down has sunk down into the gray. So if you look at it after it dries, if you feel it, you wouldn't feel the black lines distinctly. they've just sunk down into the icing. So again, it gives you more of almost a wallpaper texture effect, which is cool, but that may not be what you want. You might want to have that raised layer on top. The raised layer is nice because it does give you the texture, and you can get a much finer line. Like this line is pretty thick on here. If I was doing this on a dried cookie, I could get that line super, super thin as long as I had my icing to the exact consistency. And I don't know if you have noticed, but I'm using decorating bags, and these are called parchment triangles. And I fold them myself, and then I just can completely control how large the hole is that the icing is coming out. You can control the icing if you use the plastic decorating bags, which I use occasionally. You can control the size of the hole for that as well, but not quite as much as you can with the paper. So I can get a really nice thin line with the paper cones that I can't get with others. So just a little comment there. Okay, so now we're going to just do a really simple little design in the at the top of the tombstone, and then I will write, and I'm writing kind of upside down here, so hopefully I get this right, but just put a little RIP on there. There. So we got this nice little design. You can put some additional lines down here if you want, just to give it some additional effect. Maybe we can draw a couple lines right directly under the RIP to kind of represent the information that's on the tombstone. So this is kind of a fun thing. And you can actually go ahead and, if you want to, you can add additional colors on there. Maybe we put a little bit of white in the corners, and yeah, so that's kind of a fun effect when you're, again, if you want to lay all the icing down at once and you don't want to have to wait until that base coat sets up. This is a kind of a nice effect for that. I'm going to move that aside, and we'll do something similar, but this is with the one that's already set up. So let me get my icing here, and okay, I'm going to do a similar where I'm drawing around the design and just sort of pulling out some of the detail of the shape of the tombstone. A little spot here missed, so you can go back and kind of fill that in. So there we've got our outline again. And then I will do sort of the same thing with a little fleur-de-lis type shape up at the top. And I'll do the RIP again. If your icing's too thin, sometimes the color, if I was doing this and the icing was too thin, I do run the risk of the icing sort of not staying distinct on top and the colors actually bleeding into each other. So it's make sure that you want to make sure that you have a good consistency. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do the little white dots in the corners, but I'm going to give some additional dimension to the writing to hopefully give it a little bit of an effect, like more of a 3D effect, and just go along the edge and there. That's kind of fun. It gives it some depth. It looks like it might actually be etched now, as opposed to actually being sitting on top of the tombstone. We can kind of do the same thing where I did the detail, but just kind of do it in the form of lines. So something really simple like that. It's kind of fun, a nice sort of like giving it some like a lot of really nice sort of texture and feel. And then something else you can do. I've got some more of that green that I had used for the little kitten's eyes. I'm going to, whoops, sorry about that. Wow. I'm going to put a little bit of a an ivy around so that it kind of looks like maybe that particular tombstone has been here a while, so it's got some vegetation growth on it. And we can put some of the leaves on there. Guess maybe I should have used brown to show that the leaves were dead, but that's okay. Just use that. So there, kind of just gives it another dimension of color and effect. You can also do, add as many colors as you want, like I said, and depending again on the texture that you want to have when you're done, you put them on immediately or you let them set up. Now the green is probably a little thinner than it should be. I would want that line to be more distinct, but because I wanted to make sure that I had it thin enough to do the eyes on the little kitten, I wanted to make sure that it was thinner. So when I laid it down, it is kind of globbing a little bit, but still looks pretty cool. So I'm very happy with this, and I'd be very happy to certainly serve this to someone. But also it would be a great cookie. Like if somebody was ordering Halloween cookies for a party, this would be a great little design for that. All right. Cool. So those are our Halloween cookies this week. I am going to be doing subsequent sessions, and that's going to be the next 3 Thursdays leading right up to the day before Halloween. I've got different designs picked out for each week, so that'll be fun to kind of do something different. I do have some additional techniques I'm going to be showing you, so if you can make it, make sure and tune in. If you can't make it, then I'll make sure and get the picture or the videos posted on my site and on my Instagram and Facebook feed so that you can go and check them out. Or you can subscribe to my Fabino YouTube channel and you can see the all of these videos in their entirety, as well as some cookie decorating videos from other holidays, primarily Christmas. And I'm hoping, if this goes well, that we continue to do these sessions through the month of November and into December. So if you like it, let me know. If there's something you'd like to see different, please let me know in either the chat of this video or in the notes for the video after it gets posted. Or send me a note through Instagram on the post, or send me a direct message through Instagram or Facebook, whatever the medium is that you prefer. Again, this is new for me, the YouTube Live. I like it. It gives me some control technologically that I don't have normally, but it doesn't allow for me to interact with you the way I would like to. So I may consider going in a different route. It would just mean that the videos would look a little bit different, but I really want to interact with you and answer your questions and see if you have thoughts or want to make recommendations for how I'm decorating the cookie or additional shapes, or you have a cookie that's coming up and you don't know how to decorate it. Maybe we can work together on figuring out a design. So yeah, we'll see where this goes. All right, everybody, I'm going to shut down for now. Take care, and we will see you next week. All right, bye-bye.